Hi, my good friend James Gull is about to share some incredible insights with us. He's a dreamer and a seer and a prophet and intercessor. And God is speaking to people so much in dreams, and very profound dreams are coming forth. In fact, there seems to be an increase, a huge increase of dreams in the body, and maybe you've been receiving dreams. And some of those dreams are actually God speaking to us about things that we're currently dealing with or things that are going to come about in the future. And I just believe that that it is one way that God is really speaking clearly, and some very profound things are being given to us in dreams. Do you know at nighttime when you're sleeping, you're at rest, and so your natural mind isn't as invasive or intrusive as it is when we're awake. And so therefore God can speak to us a lot easier because we are at rest. That's a posture we should always have in the Spirit, is a posture of rest. That's the posture that God likes. And so here's James Gall, one of our best friends and one of our apostolic covering. James Gall and Encounters Network actually cover our ministry along with Bill Johnson and Wesley and Stacy Campbell. And so there are apostolic covering, and in addition to that, we have a lot of different advisors like Randy Clark and John Arnott and Paul Keith Davis and Steve Schultz and others like that that speak into our life. And so we just are thrilled with what James wants to bring to you today. Here he is.
Well, I've been having an incredible series of dreams. You know, it's so outrageous what God can do. You know, He can be consistent in the middle of our inconsistent schedules. Anyway, that's a whole teaching in itself, but it's all about the grace and the faithfulness of God. And so in the middle of sometimes my erratic schedule, God's grace shows up in some unusual manner, and He gives me dreams, like He does you too. And it's amazing, it's not just to have them, but to remember them. Well, you see, God says in His Word, in Deuteronomy, and in the Gospels, and in 2 Corinthians, 3 different places, Old Testament, Gospels, and the Pauline epistles, 3 different writings. He says, I will confirm my word by the testimony of 2 and 3 witnesses. And that phrase itself is used 3 times in the Bible. Okay, so what am I saying? Because the question is about, well, what's God speaking to me about in dreams? Recently, I had a series of dreams that went over in a whole week's period of time, and every night I started dreaming about a fresh outpouring of the Holy Spirit amongst young people. And in these dreams, I was being taken back to 30 to even 40 years ago. Some things that I didn't experience, 40 years ago, because I was only 14, but then I was in the middle of, like 35 and 30 years ago. So I'm time dating myself, okay? But I started going back and reliving some of the experiences that I had when a college student of the outpouring of the Holy Spirit, the Jesus People movement. And I started going back, reliving these accounts. And I was just seeing counterculture movements of where God's Holy Spirit, but now in today's setting, it was sort of like the past overlaid type dreams, seeing the past and then an overlay of the future, present and future. Fascinating. It was actually like a triple overlay. Here's the past, here was the present, and then it was as well projecting into the future of like some culture of some things that haven't yet fully happened. And so anyway, I'm seeing like the early 1970s and the hippie movement and all this. And then the invasion of the Holy Spirit into that culture and calling forth treasures of light out of darkness, the Jesus People movement. And in this, just night after night, I started seeing like these Jesus People houses and things like this, and young people just worshiping and praising God. And then I started seeing the power of deliverance happening, where young people were getting delivered of, of LSD and crack cocaine and just drugs and sexual addictions and all these kinds of things. And then it gets overlaid. It's really kind of even hard to explain this. It gets overlaid to today. And then the dream wasn't about the past, but it was about what happened in the past was happening today. But instead, the Holy Spirit was invading today's culture, and then it moved to somewhere in the future, I think 10 to 20 years from now even, if Jesus tarries, where there was a whole nother expression of culture, but this time what seemed to be happening, the movement that was being birthed now then didn't stop, but it kept on moving progressively and accelerating into the future generations. Now, one of the things I saw real specific was, this was today, this is an example. I saw the goth culture, where all the young people all dressed, in black and, and their hair certain ways and, and all the makeups and all of the, things, all the, excuse me, that can be very dark culture. And I'm not saying if you dress in black, that you're demonized. That's why I love black. In fact, I look best in black clothes, okay? So that's not what I'm referring to, but I think you all know that a lot of that can come from out of, a demonic background. And so in this dream, I saw all this goth culture of all these young people, and it was Satan worship and everything, and all dressed in black and all this. And then the whole thing shifts. And I saw a new movement getting birthed in the earth, and it was called the Pure Life Movement. And instead of young people being dressed totally in black, the whole thing shifted in the dream, and there was a white movement. As there was a black movement, there will be a white movement. There is going to be such a move of counterculture purity. It wasn't religious, but there was going to be, just like there's literally, I know I'm being redundant on this, but how do I explain? And I just want you to be able to enter into this dream experience that I had. And so I'm just trying to paint the picture, and I want to invite you into this experience with me. I saw the Holy Spirit invading the goth culture and all of this, and then there was this huge shift, and there's going to literally be, get this, even in fad, in dress, and in appearance, there is going to be the color white is going to come on the scene. And even as people love dressing in black, there is going to be an enormous shift that will come. And there's going to be a purity movement. And part of what's going to happen, it's not just purity rings, it's going to be, they're going to be dressed in righteousness. Now, I believe that this isn't only going to be a movement of righteousness, but I really believe it's going to even affect culture. And there's going to be this, again, the Holy Spirit's going to move upon the color white. Wow, that sounds kind of strange, doesn't it? But I saw this, and when you see these things, you know they're spiritual, you know they're parables, and at times they're literal. I believe that we're at the throes of the birthing of a new, 40 years later, a new Jesus people movement. But God's desire that this one isn't going to be only a Jesus people movement. Get this. This is going to be a Father movement. This is going to be, there's going to be a move of God that is going to be based out of the revelation of the fatherhood of God. And so it's going to be a Jesus people movement. But get this. Jesus came for a purpose. The book of John says he's the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through him. Well, we had a Jesus people movement. Now there's something greater that's coming, because those survivors, which I'm one of them, those survivors, Patricia King is one of them, those survivors out of that era, period of time, of that move, are now fathers and mothers to the next generation. My generation had teachers, but it had very few fathers and mothers. This next move will not be a fatherless and motherless move of God. It will have teachers, but it is going to have the joining of the generations. In other words, a safety net is going to be there. And so all of you out there, you can get out on the tightrope, and you can go further than what my generation, we got birthed in these things, was able to go. Part of the reason is because there's a generation of fathers and mothers, aunts and uncles, whatever you want to call them, who have learned some of the lessons and are going to be there to help catch you. Be a safety net, the tutors and everything, and just to be there with you. Not to parent you in a wrong way. I really don't like that kind of stuff, okay? But to help guide you, nurture you, walk with you, to be with you. And so I've been having a series of dreams about a rebirth of a Jesus People movement that won't stop, but that will grow and will actually be a Fatherhood of God movement. So let it come, and may you be a part.